She's standing in the rain-soaked alley, hands caked in soil, a half-filled compost bin at her feet. A group loiters nearby, smirking, phones raised. "Still saving the world one banana peel at a time?" One jeers, camera lens glinting. Another snaps. "What's next? Turning trash into rent." Her silence is a blade. They circle tighter, voices sharp with mockery. Why isn't she defending herself? Why does she keep smiling? Behind her, a rusted pickup truck idles, its bed, brimming with rotting produce. A sticker peels off the bumper. "Waste not." The leader snorts, flicking a cigarette into her bucket. "This is why poor people stay poor." But she doesn't flinch. She just watches, waiting. For what? She's surrounded, not by allies, but by smirks, polished loafers tapping, manicured nails scrolling phones. A woman in a designer trench coat steps forward, snapping photos of the compost bin. "Do you wash your clothes in that slop?" she sneers. Laughter erupts. Behind them, a line forms at the food bank across the alley. A child clutches a dented can while the group's laughter sharpens. Why are they filming her? What's so wrong about saving rotting fruit? The protagonist never flinches. Her eyes track the cigarette butt tossed into her bucket, embers hissing, against wet banana peels. A man in a tailored suit mutters, "This is why we can't have nice things," as if quoting scripture. But her truck's bumper sticker glares back. "Waste not." Who is she? A charity case? A fool? Or someone who knows something they don't? The crowd grows restless. Someone whispers, "She's always here." Always. The word hangs. Why would anyone choose this? Rain drips from her frayed jacket hood as the camera zooms in. No anger, no tears. Just a quiet, unshakable stare, as if she's waiting for the ground to swallow them whole. She didn't always smell like dirt. Once, she wore silk blouses and heels, typed reports for a nonprofit that recycled school supplies, smiled in meetings where executives called composting quaint. But when the layoffs hit, she didn't cry. She watched mold bloom on forgotten fruit, saw worms turn rot into soil, noticed how the city's trash trucks groaned under the weight of what others called waste. She bought a pickup truck for $800, patched the rust with duct tape, and started hauling scraps to a derelict lot near the train tracks. Now, rainwater drips from her chipped nails as the crowd circles tighter. A man in a cashmere coat snaps, "You're why people don't donate to charity. Too many freeloaders already." She doesn't blink. Behind him, a billboard looms. "Green City Initiative, coming soon," funded by the same people mocking her. They don't know she's the reason the council even debated composting laws last year. They don't know she submitted the proposal anonymously, watched it get buried under bureaucracy, then laughed when they stole her ideas. A woman in stilettos flicks her phone toward the protagonist's face. "Smile for your fans, Eco Queen." The screen flashes with cruel comments. "Get a real job, witchy trash witch," a meme photoshopping her head onto a dumpster. But she's staring past them at the security camera blinking red on the food bank wall. She'd reported it broken weeks ago. They never fixed it. Rain darkens the alley. Her truck idles, its bumper sticker peeling. "Waste not." The words echo in her head, a mantra from her father, who raised her in a house where leftovers became soup, where he'd say, "Rich folks hoard, poor folks survive, smart folks thrive." She survived. Now she's thriving. Quietly. The crowd's laughter sharpens, but she's thinking of the garden behind the food bank, the one she built in secret. Rows of kale, tomatoes ripening under stolen sunlight. How the volunteers whisper her name like a secret prayer. How the mayor's office called yesterday. "You sure you want to do this?" they'd asked. She'd hung up without answering. The cigarette butt hisses in her bucket. Embers glow, waiting. The laughter sharpens into something jagged. A woman in leopard print boots grabs a napkin from her latte, scribbles charity case in bold marker, and flings it at the protagonist's feet. "Here's your donation receipt," she sneers. The napkin lands beside the compost bucket, soaked by rain. The crowd's phones tilt downward, recording the crumpled paper like evidence. Someone snaps a photo of her mud-streaked boots, uploads it with the caption, "When you're too lazy to afford groceries." The group's leader, a man in a tailored overcoat, steps closer, his breath smelling of espresso and entitlement. "You know what this is?" He gestures to her truck. "A symbol of giving up." His phone screen glows as he live streams the confrontation, viewers flooding in. A comment flashes, "She's probably selling it on the black market." Another, "Imagine being this pathetic." The protagonist doesn't move. Her eyes track the cigarette butt still smoldering in the compost, its ember now drowned by rain. A teenager in the crowd films her face, zooming in until her pores fill the screen. "Smile, weirdo!" he shouts. She blinks slowly, her expression unreadable. Behind her, the food bank line shuffles forward, volunteers glancing back nervously. A mother clutches her child's hand tighter. "Don't look," she whispers. But the child stares anyway, watching the woman in the frayed jacket stand motionless as the crowd's energy turns feral. Then, the first shove. A woman in a fur-lined coat bumps into her shoulder, pretending it's accidental. "Oops, didn't see you there. Waste not Wanda." The nickname spreads like a virus. Phones buzz with notifications. A hashtag blooms, "Gosh, Compost Queen is a fraud." A meme surfaces photoshopping her face onto a rotting pumpkin, captioned, "Decomposing faster than your dignity." The leader's live stream gains thousands of viewers. "This is what happens when people waste their lives on nonsense," he declares, his voice slick with moral authority. "She's not a hero. She's a cautionary tale." The crowd roars approval, their phones held high like torches. One man tosses an orange peel into her bucket. "Here's your Nobel Prize." Another dumps a half-finished smoothie onto the pavement at her feet, purple liquid pooling around her shoelaces. She doesn't flinch. Instead, her gaze drifts to the security camera above the food bank door, still blinking red, still recording. Volunteer emerges from the food bank, holding a clipboard. "Ma'am, you should go," she murmurs, glancing nervously at the crowd, but the protagonist shakes her head. "Not yet," she says quietly. The leader of the mob senses weakness. He inches closer, his voice dripping with faux sympathy. "You're stuck, you know. People like you never get out." His followers chant variations of his words, "Trapped, trapped, trapped." A woman in the back yells, "She's feral," as if describing a stray dog. Rain soaks through the protagonist's jacket. Her truck idles behind her, the bumper sticker now half-drenched. "Waste not." The crowd's energy peaks. Someone throws a banana peel. It hits her shoulder, slides to the ground. The laughter is deafening. But she's thinking of the garden behind the food bank, the rows of kale, the tomatoes ripening under stolen sunlight. The mayor's voicemail still buzzing in her pocket. The leader grabs her compost bucket, tipping it sideways. Rotting fruit splatters onto the pavement, attracting flies. "There," he says, grinning for the cameras. "Now you're officially useless." The crowd erupts. Phones capture every angle. Still, she doesn't move. Her eyes stay fixed on the blinking red light, waiting, always waiting. The laughter freezes mid-breath. A man in a charcoal suit steps into the alley, briefcase in hand, eyes scanning the crowd until they land on the protagonist. His voice cuts through the chaos like a blade. "Ms. Delaney?" The name hangs in the air. The crowd turns. Someone mutters, "Wait, what?" The leader of the mob straightens, his smirk faltering. "Who the hell are you?" The lawyer doesn't answer. Instead, he opens his briefcase, pulling out a thick envelope sealed with red wax. I've been instructed to read this where the city's waste crisis began. His gaze flicks to the protagonist. And where it will end. The crowd stirs. Phones tilt toward him now, streaming his every movement. The protagonist steps forward, rainwater dripping from her hood. She takes the envelope without a word, breaks the seal, and unfolds the document inside. Her eyes scan the page. Then, slowly, she hands it to the lawyer. "Read it," she says. His voice booms. "This is the final will and testament of Richard Delaney, founder of Green Earth Waste Solutions. To my wife, Evelyn Delaney, I leave full ownership of all intellectual property, patents, and municipal contracts related to the city's composting infrastructure." A beat of silence, then laughter, nervous, disbelieving. The leader of the mob barks out a scoff. "Bullcrap! You're telling me this woman owns the compost system?" The lawyer doesn't blink. He pulls out a second document. "Signed by the mayor's office. Certified by the city council. Ms. Delaney's fingerprints are on the original blueprints." He holds up a photo of a weathered notebook, its pages filled with sketches of compost bins, soil charts, and handwritten notes, "Turn waste into life." The crowd murmurs. Phones scramble to Google the name Richard Delaney. A woman gasps aloud. "He's dead. He died 2 years ago." Evelyn finally speaks, her voice quiet but sharp. "He died because he believed in this, and you stole it." The leader's face pales. "You're lying." The lawyer steps closer, holding up a third document. "This is the transcript of a council meeting from last year. Mr. Delaney's proposal was rejected, unanimously, by the very people who now profit from his work." He gestures to the crowd, "Including you." A woman in stilettos stumbles back, clutching her phone. "That's not possible." The lawyer isn't done. "Ms. Delaney was excluded from the negotiations. Her name erased. Her contributions buried." He pauses, letting the words settle. "Until now." The crowd shifts. Phones buzz with frantic searches. A headline flashes on a screen. "City's composting system found to be stolen intellectual property." Evelyn watches them unravel, her expression unreadable. The leader's voice cracks. "You expect us to believe you're the widow of some eco-saint?" The lawyer answers without hesitation. "She's the co-founder, the engineer, the reason your trash trucks run on biofuel, the reason your Green City initiative exists at all." He flips to a final page. "And she's reclaiming it." The alley falls silent. The woman who threw the napkin drops her phone. It clatters against the pavement. Evelyn bends to pick it up. The screen shows a meme mocking her. "Compost Queen is a fraud," still trending. She hands it back, her voice cold. "You should have checked the receipts." The crowd parts as city officials rush in, flanked by reporters. Cameras spin toward Evelyn, now the center of attention. But her eyes stay fixed on the security camera above the food bank, still blinking red, still recording, waiting for what comes next. The lawyer's voice echoes in the alley, but the crowd's attention has already shifted. A city official steps forward holding a tablet. "We've just received a file from the archives," he announces, his fingers tapping the screen. "It was flagged for immediate release." Evelyn watches as the screen lights up, projecting onto the side of the food bank. A grainy video begins to play, footage from the security camera above their heads. The date stamp reads 2 years ago. There she is. Younger, thinner, but unmistakable. She's kneeling beside a compost bin, gloves caked in mud, scribbling notes in a notebook. A man stands beside her, taller, silver-haired, his voice crackling through the speaker. "Every city produces waste," he says, "but only the ones who listen to people like Evelyn turn it into life." A murmur ripples through the crowd. Someone whispers, "That's Richard Delaney." The video fast-forwards. Evelyn and Richard arguing with city officials in a conference room. A council member dismisses them with a wave. "We'll revisit this next quarter." Another cuts in. "This isn't scalable. It's quaint." Evelyn's voice rises, sharp and steady. "You think feeding people is quaint?" The screen cuts to black. Then another file loads. A PDF of the original composting proposal, signed by both Delaneys. Highlighted lines jump off the page. Community-led. Waste management systems reduce landfill dependency by 60%. Urban gardens mitigate food deserts. Profit reinvested into local infrastructure. The leader of the mob steps back, his voice trembling. "This doesn't prove anything. She could have forged it." The lawyer answers without looking at him. The document was time-stamped and verified by 3 independent archivists, along with these. He pulls out a stack of papers, bank records, emails, patents. Richard Delaney's final project, shelved after his death. A woman in the crowd gasps. She's holding her phone, scrolling frantically. "The mayor's office just posted a statement," she reads aloud. "The Green City Initiative was built on stolen intellectual property. All profits will be redirected to Ms. Delaney's nonprofit." The leader's face flushes crimson. "Bullshit! We did the research. We wrote the proposals." The official with the tablet silences him with a new video. This one is recent, last year. A private meeting in a sleek boardroom. Evelyn's antagonists sit around the table, smug in tailored suits, toasting champagne. A voiceover plays as text scrolls across the screen. Transcript, council meeting March 12th. Quote, "We'll take the framework, strip the name, and call it our own. No one will remember the trash lady." The words hang like a guillotine. The crowd parts as the leader staggers backward, knocking into the compost bucket. Rotten fruit rolls across the pavement. Someone films him, close up, capturing the sweat on his upper lip. "You stole it," a bystander mutters. "You lied." The lawyer continues, relentless. Ms. Delaney's nonprofit now holds the rights to every composting truck in the city. Every biofuel contract. Every garden planted under the Green City Initiative. He pauses. "Including this one." He gestures to the derelict lot behind the food bank, now teeming with volunteers. Evelyn finally speaks, her voice quiet but slicing through the noise. "You called me a fraud, called me a waste case. But you were too busy laughing to see the truth." She steps toward the leader, her boots squelching in the mud. "You didn't just steal my work, you stole from the people who needed it most." A volunteer emerges from the garden holding a tomato, red, plump, flawless. "From your system," she tells Evelyn. "You said it would grow." The protagonist takes the tomato, turning it in her hands. The crowd watches, phones raised, as she walks to the nearest antagonist, a woman in a fur-lined coat, and holds it out. "Here," she says, "eat it or throw it away. Either way, it's not yours anymore." The woman recoils. The screen behind them flickers to a final image, Richard Delaney's face, smiling beside a quote from his notebook. "Waste not." Rain drips from Evelyn's hood as the alley falls silent. The antagonist's phones buzz with messages. One reads aloud, voice shaking, "My investors are pulling out." Another, "The press is asking for comments." Evelyn doesn't gloat. She doesn't need to. She turns to the garden, the tomatoes glowing under the gray sky, still waiting for the next act. The alley is silent except for the hum of phones capturing every breath. The antagonists stand frozen, their smirks long gone, replaced by the slow dawning of something uglier. Panic. Evelyn doesn't move. Her hands are still caked in soil, the tomato she offered the woman now rotting at their feet. Rain drips from her hood as the lawyer steps forward, holding up his phone. "There's one more file," he says. The screen flickers to life. At first it's just static. Then a face fills the frame, older, lined, familiar. Gasps ripple through the crowd. It's Richard Delaney, but he's dead. The video timestamp reads today. The man on screen leans closer to the camera, his voice steady. If you're watching this, it means Evelyn was right. That you didn't just steal our work, you buried it. And her. His eyes narrow, sharp as a blade. Well, here's what happens when you underestimate the quiet ones. The leader of the mob stumbles back, knocking into the compost bucket. Rotten fruit rolls toward Evelyn's boots. This is fake, he rasps. A deep fake. A trick. The video keeps playing. Richard's voice hardens. We knew the city wouldn't listen to us, so we made them think they'd won. Let them take our designs, our patents, our dreams. Because we were building something bigger. He pauses. And Evelyn? She's the architect. The screen splits. On one side, Richard's face. On the other, footage from the security camera above the food bank. Evelyn kneeling beside her truck, scribbling notes in her notebook, the same one from 2 years ago. The date stamp, last week. She didn't just reclaim our work. Richard continues. She improved it, expanded it, turned your greed into fertilizer for something real. The crowd stirs. Phones buzz with breaking news alerts. A headline flashes, City's composting system reclaimed by widow, a master stroke of justice. Evelyn finally speaks, her voice quiet, but cutting. You thought I was just some crazy lady in the rain. She steps toward the leader, her boots squelching in the mud. But I was always 3 moves ahead. The lawyer interrupts, holding up a tablet. Ms. Delaney's nonprofit now controls the entire composting network. Every truck, every garden, every contract. He pauses. And she's suing for damages. The woman in stilettos drops her phone. It clatters against the pavement. You planned this? Evelyn doesn't flinch. You stole from me, from the people, from my husband's legacy. Her voice hardens. So I gave you enough rope to hang yourselves. The video zooms in on the antagonists' faces as Richard's voice booms again. You laughed at her, mocked her, threw trash at her. His image gestures to the garden behind the food bank. But while you were busy being cruel, she was building a city. A volunteer emerges from the garden holding a seedling. From your system, she tells Evelyn. You said it would grow. The protagonist takes the seedling, turning it in her hands. The crowd watches, phones raised, as she walks to the nearest antagonist, a man in a tailored overcoat, and holds it out. Here, she says, take it, or throw it away. Either way, it's not yours anymore. He recoils. The screen behind them flickers to a final image. Richard's face beside Evelyn's, their names etched beneath a single phrase. Waste not. Rain drips from her hood as the alley falls silent. The antagonist's phones buzz with messages. One reads aloud, voice shaking. My investors are pulling out. Another. The press is asking for comments. Evelyn doesn't gloat. She doesn't need to. She turns to the garden, the tomatoes glowing under the gray sky, still waiting for the next act. The alley breathes in silence, thick with the weight of unraveling lies. Phones buzz in trembling hands. A headline flashes on a screen. City. Halts Green Initiative funding pending investigation. Evelyn doesn't move. She watches as the leader of the mob staggers backward, his polished loafers slipping in the mud. His live stream still rolls, capturing his panic in real time. This is a witch hunt, he rasps. She's manipulating you. The lawyer steps forward, holding up a final document. Ms. Delaney's lawsuit includes clauses for public accountability. He gestures to the crowd. Names will be released, reputations will be reviewed, contracts will be revoked. The woman in leopard print boots clutches her phone, scrolling frantically. Her social media profiles, once flooded with luxury brunches and influencer sponsorships, are now grayed out warnings. Account suspended. She whispers, They're deleting me. A volunteer from the food bank steps forward, holding a printed list. "We've compiled the damage," she announces. "Who profited? Who lied? Who buried the truth?" Her voice hardens. "And who's getting exposed?" The leader's face contorts. "You can't do this!" Evelyn finally speaks, her voice quiet but slicing through the noise. "Watch us." The lawyer begins reading names. First, the leader, Marcus Hale, council chair, personally oversaw the erasure of Ms. Delaney's contributions, lobbied to privatize the composting network. His company's stock just plummeted. Marcus's knees buckle. A reporter shoves a mic in his face. "Will you resign?" He doesn't answer. Two city officials grab his arms, escorting him toward a waiting car. His watch, a gift from the council's green gala, slips off his wrist, clattering to the pavement. Next, the woman in stilettos. Carla Voss, social media strategist, orchestrated the smear campaign against Ms. Delaney, created the memes, spread the lies. Carla's phone buzzes one last time. An email from her agency. "Your contract is terminated." She sinks to her knees, sobbing. "I was just doing my job." Then the man in the cashmere coat. Gregory Marks, philanthropist, publicly donated to the Green City Initiative while blocking Ms. Delaney's nonprofit from grants. His name scrolls across a news ticker. Philanthropist accused of fraudulent charitable claims. A volunteer hands him a flyer. "Return all funds received from stolen programs." He crumples it. The lawyer pauses, then reads one final name. Councilmember Angela Cruz voted to reject the Delaney's original proposal. "Now under investigation for misuse of public funds," a woman in the back gasps. Angela's face pales as two detectives approach, badges glinting. "Ma'am," one says, "we need to ask you a few questions." The crowd parts as she's led away, her heels clicking a frantic rhythm against the pavement. Evelyn watches them go. The alley empties, leaving only the rain, the mud, and the compost bucket still brimming with rotting fruit. A volunteer approaches, holding a shovel. "Should we bury this?" She shakes her head. "No, it's still useful." The lawyer hands her a final letter. "The city's offering you full control of the composting network, plus reparations for the stolen work." She doesn't open it. Instead, she walks to the garden behind the food bank, where volunteers cluster around rows of kale and tomatoes. A child tugs her sleeve. "Is it yours now?" She kneels, wiping mud from her gloves. "It always was," she says. "But now, it's everyone's," the crowd murmurs as a city official steps forward, holding a microphone. "Press conference in 10 minutes, he tells her. "They want to hear from you." She glances at the security camera above the food bank, still, blinking red. Still recording. Then quietly she says, "Tell them the truth." The garden hums with life. Flies buzz around the compost. The tomatoes glow red under the gray sky. Justice, she thinks, isn't revenge. It's letting the world see what they tried to bury and watching it grow. The garden hums with life. Rain softens the edges of the alley, washing mud from Evelyn's boots. A child tugs her sleeve again, holding out a tomato, plump, red, flawless. "From your system," she says. Evelyn kneels, wiping dirt from the girl's fingers before accepting it. "Good work," she murmurs. "Now go plant another." Volunteers gather around, clutching seedlings and tools. One hands her a list. Names of those who quietly supported her. Teachers, farmers, the food bank staff who never mocked her. "They want to help," the volunteer says. "The city's asking for your plan." Evelyn scans the list, then pockets the paper. "My plan's already growing." She gestures to the rows of kale, the compost bins humming with life. "This isn't about me. It's about what we do next." A reporter approaches, mic raised. "How does it feel to win?" She doesn't answer. Instead, she walks to the food bank steps, where the security camera still blinks red. She reaches up, flicking the power switch. The light dies. "It's not about winning," she says. "It's about making sure no one forgets." Behind her, the volunteers begin planting. The child giggles, tossing seeds into fresh soil. A breeze carries the scent of damp earth and possibility. The leader's fur-coated antagonist lingers at the alley's edge, clutching a crumpled apology letter from her investors. Evelyn meets her gaze. "You can still help," she says. "Start by listening." The woman hesitates, then nods. As night falls, the garden glows under string lights. Volunteers laugh, sharing stories of the fight. Evelyn slips away, finding a quiet bench beneath a pear tree. She pulls out Richard's notebook, tracing his final entry, "Waste not, a whisper of wind." A rustle of leaves. The alley, once a battlefield, is silent again. But the seeds, both buried and spoken, will never stop growing. Evelyn's story isn't just about compost. It's about the quiet ones, the ones who bend but don't break, who build while others burn, who turn ridicule into revolution. She didn't seek revenge. She sought truth, and in doing so, she fed a city. If you've ever been told your ideas are too small, your dreams too messy, or your voice too soft, remember her. The woman who planted justice in rot and watched it bloom. The garden still grows. So do the stories. If this moved you, share it. Not for clicks, but for the one still waiting in the rain, buckets in hand, ready to prove the world wrong. Because the next time you see someone wasting their life on something that matters, don't laugh. Listen, then ask, "How can I help? The seeds are already in the ground."